Welcome to the eerie hour. Some places don't just haunt you, they wait. Tonight, we step into a silence that stretches beyond the usual quiet, into the corners of memory where things are not quite right. Our setting is simple, perhaps deceptively so. The interior of a space you thought you knew intimately. An apartment, a childhood home, a solitary workshop, any place where routine has carved deep, predictable grooves. But routine is a fragile shield against the things that slip through the cracks. The air here is still, thick with the scent of old dust and something else, something metallic, like rain on rust or forgotten coins. Listen closely to the narrator's voice. It carries the weight of experiences that linger, unwanted, long after the event. It speaks from a place where certainty has frayed and the map of reality holds impossible territories. If you enjoy descending into the strange and the forgotten, don't forget to like and subscribe, and share your theories below. Now, let's begin. But remember, once the story starts, something always follows. You run your hand along the familiar grain of the wall, tracing the route you've taken 1,000 times from the window to the door. This is your space, measured and known. Every scuff mark on the floorboards, every sun-faded patch on the wallpaper, they are landmarks in a geography etched into your mind. Yet today, the pattern falters. Where the solid plaster should meet the wooden frame of the pantry, there is instead a line, faint at first, then deepening into a definite seam. It looks like an edge, an opening cut where no opening has ever been. Unease is a cold tide, but curiosity is a fire, hotter and more immediate. You press a fingertip against the line. It yields slightly. This is impossible. The space is small, perhaps a cramped kitchen or a narrow hallway corner. The air here normally smells of stale coffee and lemon polish, but now there's that metallic tang, sharper, accompanied by a faint, dry scent like decaying paper. As you examine the line, a strange flicker catches your eye in the polished surface of the refrigerator door opposite. It's your reflection, but distorted, elongated, and for a brief, chilling instant, it seems to twitch, independent of your movement. You look back at the seam. Nothing there moves. Had you truly seen it? Or was it just the light, playing tricks on tired eyes? The question itself is a small crack forming in the foundation of your perception. This doorway, this impossible seam, is a trespass against the known order of things. It shouldn't exist. The solid architecture of this room, memorized down to the smallest detail, denies its presence. You step closer, compelled by a need to understand this anomaly. The wall feels colder near the line. You recall a specific detail about this corner, perhaps a framed picture that used to hang slightly askew here, or a specific cobweb you always meant to brush away. Now, remembering it feels wrong, like trying to place a familiar object in an alien landscape. The picture isn't just gone. Its absence feels significant. A signpost removed before the path changed. How long has this been here? The thought whispers, cold and sharp, not from your own mind, but seemingly from the very air around the hidden edge. You lean closer still, drawn by the mystery, the metallic scent stronger now, promising entry into a place that logic insists cannot possibly lie within the walls you call home. The moment you step across the threshold of the hidden exit, the air changes. it doesn't just shift, it thickens, becoming something heavy and viscous that clings to your skin and pulls at your breath. The familiar scent of damp plaster and forgotten things is gone, replaced by something coppery and cold, like old pennies left out in the rain. The space you enter is not just different, it is fundamentally wrong. The geometry refuses to obey. Walls don't meet at logical angles. Corridors stretch and shrink before your eyes, painted in colors that exist nowhere in nature. A violent, bruised purple, bleeding into a sickly, jaundiced yellow under a light source that pulses but has no discernible origin point. It hangs in the air, a static hum you feel more than hear, vibrating deep in your bones. The textures under your hands, reaching out instinctively for balance, are like nothing you've ever known. Smooth, cool stone that simultaneously feels rough and warm, shifting like fine sand beneath the surface. A pervasive, unsettling silence presses in, broken only by that resonant hum and the faint, wet sound of something dripping, endlessly, just out of sight. This is where unease blooms into outright fear. Your mind rebels, trying to impose order, but the space denies it. The concept of up and down begins to lose meaning. You feel a growing confusion, a sickening certainty that your senses are betraying you. This isn't real. A voice whispers in the back of your head, small and panicked. This can't be real. But the oppressive weight of the atmosphere, the impossible colors, the tangible wrongness pressing in on all sides, silences the rational mind. This is the moment of fracture, where doubt severs the connection to the reality you understood. And then you see the mirrors. They are everywhere now, lining the walls, hanging suspended in the air, embedded in the floor. But they do not offer true reflection. One shows you standing in a hallway identical to the one you just left, only bathed in a grotesque green light. A figure standing just behind where you stand. A figure not there in your own space. Another reflects a room filled with countless closed doors, none of which are present in the space you occupy. Your own reflection stares back, but its eyes are too wide, its mouth a silent O of terror you do not feel. Yet, the mirrors are not windows. They are membranes, showing possibilities that shouldn't exist, or perhaps realities that do exist, folded over your own in a way you cannot comprehend. They multiply the wrongness, each one a pinprick of dread. What do they want you to see? Suddenly, a disorienting flash, not of light, but of sound, a choked, gasping sob, followed by a faint, brittle splintering noise, like glass shattering far away. It lasts only a fraction of a second, yet it sears itself into your awareness, utterly alien and out of place even here. The sound is gone, but the resonance lingers, echoing not in your ears, but in the hollow space opening in your chest. The mirrors flicker synchronously for just a moment, their impossible images rippling like disturbed water. You turn to look down the seemingly endless corridor, then back at the opening you came through, but it is no longer there. Just another expanse of impossibly angled wall and the silent, mocking gleam of countless mirrors. You are trapped in the logic of this place, and the feeling of being watched, not just by distorted reflections, but by something within the space itself, intensifies tenfold. You try the same passage again. Left at the landing, down the warped stairs, through the peeling doorway. It brings you back. Not just similar rooms, but this room, the one with the stained wallpaper and the overturned chair. A cold dread, heavy and sickly, blooms in your chest. You are trapped, or perhaps the space simply has no exit. It loops, a cruel, elegant knot tied around reality. Panic claws its way up your throat, a hot, frantic thing. How long have you been tracing these impossible circuits? Hours? Days? The details of arriving here blur, then vanish entirely. There's a hollow place where memories should be, just before this place. Who were you before this decay? The question feels alien, belonging to someone else. The air itself seems to thicken, pressing in. It's not just cold now, it feels like a deliberate chill aimed at your bones. The decay isn't just passive, it seems to breathe. The walls bulge slightly in places, covered in a damp, velvety growth that shivers under your touch. The smell is sour, like old blood and forgotten rain, clinging to everything. This place is not inert, it feels alive, and it feels hostile. Soft, phantom sounds begin to layer themselves over the silence. Not just floor creaks, but faint, wet scraping from behind the walls. A breath, held too long, sighs just out of earshot. Then, whispers, indistinct like static given voice, or the frantic chatter of mice trapped in the fabric of the house. You spin, searching the empty corners, but there is nothing. Only the growing certainty that you are not alone, or perhaps that the space contains others, long gone, echoing still. You find yourself standing before a large, ornate mirror again, the glass clouded with age. Your own reflection stares back, wide-eyed, a stranger in familiar clothes. But as you watch, the image shimmers. It flickers. For a heartbeat, it's not your face staring back, but another, pale, drawn, a desperate fear etched into the features. Then it shifts again, showing a room you don't recognize, filled with antique furniture and draped in sunlight that shouldn't exist here. These are not reflections, they are glimpses. Glimpses of other times, perhaps, or other lost souls caught in this same inescapable loop. And then you hear it again, a faint, high-pitched whimper, like a small hurt animal, seeming to emanate from the frame of the mirror itself, or perhaps from the very wood of the wall. It's a sound you realize, with sickening certainty, you have heard before, faintly, in the periphery of your exploration. It is a sorrowful, recurring note in the symphony of this place, a signature. It seems to call to something ancient and trapped within these walls. Does the mirror reflect the past, or does the past leak through the mirror? The distinction seems to dissolve. Like everything else here, the air thickens again, not just cold now, but heavy, like breathing dust and damp soil. You are no longer alone. The quiet hum of your own blood in your ears is drowned by the certainty of observation. It isn't a feeling. It is a pressure against your skin, the palpable presence of unseen eyes. They track your slightest shift, your hesitant breaths. The walls feel closer, the shadows deeper and more watchful. Every creak of the floorboards behind you sounds like a deliberate step closing the distance. Paranoia isn't a state of mind. It is the undeniable truth of this place. A sweat breaks on your neck, cool and clammy, and your past rises unbidden, sharp and unforgiving. Little lies, small betrayals, moments of careless cruelty long buried resurface, amplified and twisted by the suffocating stress. You shouldn't have left her alone. a thought whispers, though the her is lost in the haze of panic. Only the sharp sting of guilt remaining. It's a different kind of cold than the air brings, internal and absolute. The room itself feels hostile. The floorboards beneath your feet seem to cling, making each step a struggle, as if the house itself doesn't want you to move. A sour, metallic scent drifts on the heavy air, like old blood or rust, invasive and clinging. It seems to emanate from everywhere and nowhere at once. You feel a distinct pressure just behind your right ear, almost like breath, silent and frigid. You flinch away, though there is nothing there. Then it happens. The small porcelain doll on the mantelpiece, the one with the vacant eyes, tilts its head. Slowly, deliberately. There is no draft, no vibration to explain it. It simply moves, its gaze seeming to lock onto you, unseeing, yet intensely focused. A whisper, dry as bone dust, brushes against your ear, too low to decipher, but the tone is clear. A mockery, a promise. The cold spot that touched your neck follows you as you instinctively back away. A moving patch of absolute zero in the oppressive heat of your fear. You stumble backward, your gaze catching the tall cheval mirror in the corner of the room. It reflects the room, but subtly wrong. The shadows are deeper, the angles sharper. Your own reflection seems strained, older, eyes wide with a terror that feels foreign yet utterly familiar. As you watch, the reflection warps, rippling like water disturbed by an unseen hand. For a split second, something else flickers behind your image, a fleeting, skeletal shape that seems to reach. It's less a form and more an absence, a hungry void given brief, horrifying shape. And in that silent flicker, you understand. With a crushing certainty that steals your breath, that this presence doesn't just watch, it wants. What it wants, you cannot name, but the implication is absolute and terrifying. It doesn't just haunt, it consumes. The mirror feels toxic, vile to look into. But pulling your eyes away is impossible, caught between the visible horror and the unseen presence that now feels undeniably close, perhaps closer than your own skin. The floor pitches underfoot, not like unstable ground, but like the laws governing solid matter have been politely excused. Walls ripple, not with damp, but with something like muscle beneath thin skin. You watch them shift, inhale, exhale, a slow, obscene breath that fills the room with a low, grinding sound, like stones weeping. Perspective distorts, distances lengthen or contract arbitrarily. The door you just passed is suddenly across the room, then behind you again. Warped into a trapezoid, your thoughts unravel like wet thread. A name surfaces, yours, but it feels alien, like a borrowed coat that doesn't fit. Who is standing here, watching the walls breathe? The reflection in the polished surface of a nearby cabinet is not you. It's a smear of shifting colors, sometimes resolving into a fleeting, anguished face that isn't yours, sometimes just a void. You reach out, not to touch the cabinet, but to touch the place where your reflection should be, and the smear deepens, drawing inward like ink on water. A chilling whisper seems to emanate from the cabinet's surface, formless words that scrape against the inside of your skull, asking questions you don't understand, questions about doors that aren't here, about people you can't recall. The mirror motif, once a mere detail, is now a vortex. Every reflective surface, glass, metal, even slick patches on the floor, holds a distorted truth, or perhaps the truth, about what is happening or who you are becoming. They show slivers of impossible rooms, glimpses of figures that shouldn't exist, or worst of all, they show nothing at all, a perfect blank where your form should be, suggesting an absence that terrifies more than any monstrous image. The air tastes metallic and thin, amplifying the confusion, the dizzying sense of dissociation. Is this real? Was anything before real? Perhaps the only reality is this one, the space that warps to your presence, the reflections that deny your existence. You glimpse a fleeting image in a warped reflection, a child's face, laughing, then weeping, then gone, a fragment that feels intensely significant, tied to a memory that refuses to form, hinting that the way out might not be through a physical door, but through something broken inside you. Welcome to the eerie hour. Some places don't just haunt you, they wait. They settle into silence, gathering dust like old memories, until someone wanders in, drawn by a whisper of forgotten history or a careless, misplaced curiosity. You might think you are exploring, mapping forgotten rooms, but the place is mapping you, finding the hidden corners in your own mind where the shadows lie deepest. It doesn't rush. It has infinite time. It simply lets the door close behind you, softly, almost imperceptibly, and then it begins to show you things. Things that were always there, just out of sight, reflected in surfaces you rarely look into. Things that suggest you are not alone, not anymore. If you enjoy descending into the strange and the forgotten, don't forget to like and subscribe, and share your theories below. Now let's begin. But remember, once the story starts, something always follows. Section 1. The air inside the house is thick with the scent of settled dust and something else. Something faintly sweet and cloying, like overripe fruit left too long in a forgotten larder. You step across the threshold, the sound swallowed immediately by the oppressive quiet. The door clicks shut behind you, a soft, final sound that doesn't echo. Sunlight struggles through grimy windows, casting long, lazy shafts that illuminate motes dancing in the heavy air. Each room you enter is a study in decay. Peeling wallpaper like sunburnt skin, furniture draped in white sheets that look like ghosts frozen in place. The silence is the most striking thing, a living entity that presses against your eardrums. You move deeper, drawn by a sense of expectancy you can't name. In the grand hall, tarnished mirrors hang on opposing walls, reflecting each other into a dizzying, infinite regression of ghostly rooms. As you approach the nearest one, your own reflection appears, indistinct through the film of age and neglect. But as you watch, a subtle anomaly catches your eye. The dust motes in the reflected air don't quite align with the ones you see in the actual room. They dance to a different, slower rhythm. This tiny, impossible detail creates a sudden, sharp crack in your composure. It is just dust, you tell yourself, a trick of the light, the eye. Yet a seed of doubt has been planted, cold and small, settling in the pit of your stomach. The mirror stares back, its surface a still, dark water, hinting at unseen depths. You feel a prickle on the back of your neck, the sudden, chilling awareness that you are not just looking at the mirror, but perhaps being looked into. The house feels larger than it did from the outside. its silence less empty and more filled with holding its breath. Section 2. The chilling awareness from the hall doesn't dissipate. It wraps around you like a shroud the deeper you go. The scent of sweet decay grows stronger in certain rooms, almost sickly. You notice now that the silence isn't uniform. It has textures, thin spots where it seems to stretch tight, and thick pockets that feel like wading through dark water. Creaking floorboards don't just announce your presence. They seem to answer something unseen. A phantom weight shifting just out of sight. The dust motes continue their slow, deliberate dance in every sliver of light, but the discrepancy in the reflections is no longer subtle. In the study, the grandfather clock reflected in a wall mirror shows a time 10 minutes ahead of the actual clock in the room. You check your own watch. It matches the real clock. This overt impossibility sends a tremor through your resolve. You step back from the mirror, heart hammering, the calm inquiry of moments ago shattered by a rising tide of fear. It's not a trick of light. It's wrong. Fundamentally, terrifyingly wrong. The mirrors aren't just reflecting the house. They're reflecting a different version of it, or perhaps somewhere else entirely. You find yourself compulsively checking every polished surface, every pane of glass, desperate to find a reflection that aligns perfectly with reality. But none do. Your own face in the glass seems paler, the shadows under your eyes deeper than they were moments before. A low, almost imperceptible murmur seems to emanate from the surface of the mirror in the drawing room, a sound like dried leaves skittering across stone, too quiet to resolve into words, yet undeniably there. You press an ear to the cool glass, and the sound seems to recede, only to resume the moment you pull back. It's as if the mirrors are whispering secrets the air cannot hold. This house feels less like a structure of wood and stone, and more like a collection of thresholds that lead nowhere good. Section 3. The murmuring from the mirrors persists, a constant, subliminal current beneath the silence. It's not just in the drawing room now. Any reflective surface seems to hum with it, a low thrumming that vibrates in your bones. You walk past a standing mirror in the landing, and your reflection pauses for a fraction of a second after you stop, its eyes lingering on something you cannot see behind you. When you spin around, nothing is there but empty space and the same oppressive quiet. This deliberate, delayed movement in the glass is a direct challenge to your sanity. The fear hardens into a desperate obsession. You begin to catalog the differences, documenting the impossibilities. The reflected rooms show different furniture, different wallpaper, even different lighting, sometimes bright and unnatural, sometimes shrouded in an inky gloom that seems to press against the glass from the other side. You find yourself talking to the reflections, muttering questions, pleading for explanations. The house responds only with the endless whispers and the visual lies in the glass. A disturbing memory surfaces, unbidden, a forgotten promise, a moment of casual cruelty, a regret you thought was buried deep. It flickers in the surface of a small vanity mirror. In an upstairs bedroom, a brief, vivid image of a face you once knew, etched with disappointment. Where did that come from? You didn't consciously recall it. It feels as though the mirrors are not just showing you different realities, but fishing through the contents of your mind, pulling forgotten thoughts to the surface. The house is becoming indistinguishable from your own thoughts. A physical manifestation of regret and fear. You wonder if you walked in here, or if you simply woke up within its walls. Section 4. The boundaries blur. The scent of decay is now inextricably linked with the faint, coppery taste of guilt in your mouth. The murmuring from the mirrors sometimes coalesces into fragments of familiar voices, twisted and distorted, speaking words you almost recognize. Accusations, warnings, or simply your own name repeated like a broken record. You stand before a large cheval glass in a derelict ballroom, and the person looking back is subtly wrong. They wear clothes you don't own, their hair is styled differently, and their eyes hold a chilling emptiness that makes your blood run cold. It is you, undeniably, but a version stripped bare, devoid of any spark of life you thought you possessed. The reflected room behind this empty self is a sterile, featureless white space, utterly devoid of the house's clutter and decay. It is a void, with only your hollow image standing in it. The psychological fracture is complete. You no longer fully trust your senses in the real house. Was that creak in the floor a phantom step or your own? Was that cold spot a draft or the brush of something unseen that lives in the glass? The obsession with the mirrors consumes you. You try covering them, turning them to the wall, but it makes no difference. The reflections bleed through the sheets. The whispers penetrate the wood. The house is the mirrors, and the mirrors are now showing you the terrible truth. This place is not just reflecting your inner state, it is made of it. The guilt, the fear, the forgotten self. They are the walls, the dust, the silence. The hollow figure in the ballroom mirror seems to raise a hand, not to wave, but to press against the glass, as if trying to escape the featureless white void. But which side is the void? Section 5. The silence is absolute now, crushing. The murmurs are gone. The separate scents have faded, replaced by a sterile, unnerving stillness. You stand in the center of the house, or what you believed to be the center, surrounded by mirrors that no longer show disparate realities or accusing memories. They show only one thing, repeated infinitely, the sterile white void. And in each reflection, the same hollow figure stands, its eyes fixed on you with that chilling emptiness. The air is unnaturally still, devoid of even the phantom drafts. This is the peak, not of action, but of horrifying, inescapable understanding. The house was never a house. The dust, the decay, the strange scents, the sounds, they were just the sensory details of the trap forming around you. The mirror motif's final meaning is revealed not in what it reflects, but in its nature. It is not a window, nor a boundary. It is the membrane of your own consciousness turned inward. The house is a state of mind, a prison built from the architecture of your own guilt, memory, and identity. The horror isn't supernatural entities haunting a place. It's the supernatural being, the inescapable reality of this existence. The exit you sought was a lie, because there is no out from yourself. The hollow figure in the glass is not a reflection, but the truth of your altered state. A chilling acceptance settling over you like the dust. This is not a place you escape from. It is a state you exist within, permanently changed, resigned to the pervasive reality of your internal prison. The mirrors are everywhere, showing only the void you now inhabit and the self you have become. There is nowhere else to look. Section 6. The stillness remains, deep and absolute, a perfect vacuum where sound and sensation used to dwell. There was no escape, because there was nowhere to go but deeper inside. And now you are at the core. The house, the mirrors, the dust motes dancing in phantom light, they persist, but less as solid things and more as the permanent landscape of a mind folded in on itself. The horror wasn't a monster in the dark. It was the realization that the dark was you, and the monster was what you built around your guilt. The hollow figure in the mirrors is no longer distinct. It is simply the reflection of your new state of being, a part of the pervasive quiet. It is not just a reflection. It is the only thing left to see. The mirrors are not gone. They are the walls now, the ceiling, the floor. Their surface no longer showing different places, but confirming the singular, unending nature of this internal space. There is a lingering presence, yes, but it is your own, trapped within the architecture of regret. The question isn't how to get out, but how long the stillness will last before the murmurs begin again. The cycle of recognition and entrapment repeating in the endless reflection. Your fate is not death, but perpetual residency within the confines of your own mind's making. And sometimes, in the deepest part of the stillness, you think you hear a soft click, like a door closing far away. And if you hear it again tonight, don't answer, not yet.